we're continuing to explore the Great Migration. My first question is, did you know that you were a part of what is now called the Great Migration?
Well, didn't really know that I was a part of it until I got to thinking about it. I guess I consider myself more toward the tail end of what I knew statistically as the Great Migration, which lasted, I think, for like roughly 60 years, starting around 1910 to 1970. So that's why I said I feel that we came in on the tail end of this thing because we came here in 1974. But as I thought about it, it still had the same type bearings as the ones that originally were coming because, again, we basically came for economic concerns, trying to better ourselves by leaving the South.
So where are you all originally from?
Well, actually, we're from a small town in North Carolina called Dunn, North Carolina. We're about halfway between Raleigh, Durham, the state capital, and Fayetteville. Actually, right off the Interstate 95.
Okay, so you're both from that same area?
Yes.
Nice. So you came up around 1974. What exactly brought you two to Michigan?
Gerald accepted a job from General Motors, and right after his commitment with the Army.
Yeah, I had a 2-year military obligation out of college from North Carolina A&T. So I served 2 years basically all at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And as I was getting out of the military, they were basically at these Fortune 500 companies coming in interviewing for junior officers. And I interviewed with GM and several other companies, but I ended up accepting a job with General Motors here in Ypsilanti, Michigan, the old hydromatic transmission plant.
Okay, nice. So is there anything memorable from that move and relocating to Michigan? Or even just after you guys got here, any challenges that you had to figure out, surprises or anything like that?
Well, the most memorable thing, I think, for both of us, after we moved here in October of '74, I never will forget it. We'd only been here roughly 3 weeks, and one of the biggest snowstorms ever recorded in history for this area occurred that month. And the fact that that snowstorm occurred, and I can recall I walked out that morning to go to work, and my car was, barely could even see my car. So I went back upstairs and got back into bed because I was due at work at 6 o'clock and nothing was staring in the parking lot. There was nothing out there but snow. About 9 a.m., I got a call from my supervisor. He wanted to know where I was at. I told him I was home. He thought about it for a little while and said, okay, I remember you're one of those guys from North Carolina, so we're gonna give you a pass today, but see if you can make it in tomorrow. So I walked across the street, purchased a shovel, came back, and I shoveled the rest of the day to clear pretty much the whole parking lot so I could get to the street. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say that was the only day in my 34 years working for GM that I missed because of a snow day.
Mm-hmm. Did it make you reconsider possibly going back to North Carolina?
That particular day, I can tell you, I definitely was reconsidering.
Thought about it. All right. Who did y'all build a community with here in Michigan? Like churches, organizations, co-workers?
We didn't know anyone when we first got here, but during my interview at Hydromatic, the personnel manager mentioned to me that I see you graduated from A&T. He says, there's a couple of more guys here from that school. I don't know if you know them or not, but before you leave today, I'll introduce you to one of the guys. And sure enough, he introduced me to Charles Jenrette at the time. He and I graduated at the same class of A&T. And he mentioned to me that Gary Dahlberry was also working at the plant at that time, who I did not personally know, but I had seen him around campus.
We met really at Gary and Mamet's house for the first time. So we met the Dahlberries, and then 2 years later, the James, and then the McLeases came along. And then part of Brown Chapel has been a part of our foundation here in Michigan. The Marshalls we lived next door to, and Mr. Marshall was like our Black historian. He would come over and give us Black history and community history. And then the Warrens, the Camuyus, and the Somervilles, and actually you too, Maya. If you can remember, about 20 plus years ago, Gerald and I used to babysit you and Nikki.
Yep, I remember. What do you guys like most about this area? What's kept you in Ypsilanti, Michigan, Southeast Michigan, for you and your family?
Well, the Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor area was similar somewhat to the small town community environment that we were used to. But at the same time, Ypsilanti is located in an area whereby you're not that far from Detroit if you wanted to go to Detroit for some other type events or whatever. But just that small town feeling and the sense of community with the church family and the people that you had gotten to know over the years.
All right, so today we see a lot of people returning to the South. What are your thoughts on that? And would you consider returning to North Carolina or anywhere down south?
Well, actually, I would love to move back south. Not so much my hometown, but maybe in the Raleigh-Durham area. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Well, because again, we've got, especially on Marion's side, most of her family, her nieces, brothers and sisters, they're still there. In that regards, we can see ourselves at some point possibly moving back.
It is nice to be around family. But thank you guys for your time. That wraps up my questions for this session.